nights with Aaron have been ongoing since 1989. A long time. And in the beginning, we met in my living room, then at Deep Spring Center. And now we're able to have a literally worldwide gathering on Zoom. I find it fun to be able to see people from all over, all gathered here together on one screen. In case there's anybody who does not know me, I'm Barbara Brodsky. I'm the guiding teacher of Deep Spring Center. We had a week-long retreat 2 weeks ago. And because of Zoom, we're able to have people literally from all over the world. I find it wonderful at the retreat to have this very close-knit and supportive Sangha drawn together. I used to travel a lot, go and teach for a week here, for a weekend there, another week there, coast to coast, Europe, even Japan. So now we're all together on Zoom, and somebody who was at the retreat, who has been at live retreats in the past, commented on the power of Sangha. You've probably all heard that quote that the Buddha said, the next Buddha will be a Sangha. A community all close-knit and supportive and really thinking as one mind in a sense. The power of that. So now, as I said, these Wednesday nights used to be in my living room in front of the fire. Now we have, here's the fire. So I love having us all together in this way. I wish that those of you who live far away could get to know each other better. That's the one thing we lack. At a large retreat, we're able to have small groups and people talk. So there is one-on-one connection. Here, well, we used to stop. We used to meet for 3 hours maybe, and 2 hours would be Aaron talking, and an hour would be tea and cookies and whatever conversation. Maybe we should do this. Just figure out how to have conversations and let you bring your own tea and cookies. Not tonight, of course, because we don't have the time, but maybe next month. So, welcome to all who are here. Aaron will speak for about an hour, then we'll move on to questions and answers. And to those, I see a few new names on here. To those who are new to us, please look us up on the web, Deep Spring Center, deepspring.org, to see what other programs we offer. And we're happy to have you, all of you, here with us. Those who don't know me, I am a trance channel. I release my consciousness from the body, and Aaron will come in directly into the body and talk. Aaron and other spirit have been working with me. I have a lot of arthritis in my body. I'm 80 years old. This body is getting older. Will loved, will used. So I have some bone on bone in my shoulders and my neck and my knees. And I have felt, and spirit has supported the idea that new cartilage can grow back. Aaron has reminded me that in his lifetime, 600 years ago, was Aaron. He lived for over 500 years. The body does not have to age in these ways as we're accustomed to it. And he says, in the same way, the earth does not have to age. All the environmental conditions of the earth. So Spirit has been working with me quite a lot on finding that balance between the present physical body and the light body, the ever-perfect body, and how to draw them together. So Aaron was remarking to me this week that when I see what's going on the earth, the politics, the hatred, the shootings, the environmental disasters, it's no different to practice inviting those into their homes than it is inviting us into our homes, our own bodies. He's going to talk a bit about all of this tonight. My blessings and love to you. I am Aaron. In some ways, your earth is a mess right today. Polluted waters, melting glaciers, pollution of the earth itself, the soil, floods and drought, and in human social terms, the rage that spreads upon the earth, hatred and wars, killing of not just animals, but destruction of species, all based in fear and service to self. What do I mean when I say service to self? Let's start with the term polarity. Everything has some kind of polarity. You might think of it the way a magnet has polarity. The similarity ends there, though, because a magnet has a positive and a negative pole. And the positive pole of the magnet attracts the negative pole of the next magnet. For the human, it's different. The positively polarized human attracts positive polarity. The negatively polarized human attracts negative polarity. And in between, we have neutral polarity. You are never 100% positively, negatively, or neutrally polarized. There's a swing back and forth a bit. Because you are mammals. When something seems to attack you, you contract. This is the way of a mammal. Contracting is not a problem. I want you to watch what happens as I throw my hand toward the camera. Do your eyes close? Is there a subtle contraction? Could you feel that? It's not a problem. It's just a part of being a man. Negative polarity is not about contracting. When something seems to come at you, let's try something else. I'm going to shout. Many of you have done this with me before, but bear with me. We'll take it a bit further. When I shout, it will be unexpected, partially unexpected. I've told you I'm going to shout, but you don't know when it's going to come. So when you hear the shout, watch your body contract. Then note if that contraction is unpleasant. It could be pleasant. It could be neutral. Note if it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. If it's pleasant, be with that pleasantness. Why is contraction pleasant? If it's unpleasant, note the direct experience of contraction. And know the feeling tone as unpleasant. Just that much. And then we'll come back and take it a step further. So you don't know when I'm going to give that shout. Surprise is a big part of this. I'm just going to feel the reverberation, shock waves. See if the contraction is still there or if it released quickly. If it's still there, let it be. Don't try to fix it. Breathing in, I am aware of contraction. Breathing out, I see the space around the contraction. Breathing in, aware of any unpleasantness around any held contraction. It's just a feeling. Breathing out, breathing in and smiling into myself, into that contraction. It's just contraction. It arose out of conditions. It will pass. It's just contraction. For most of you, it is probably not contraction. I was saying, for most of you, it was probably not predominant, but then it arose again, contraction. When the conditions are present, where the human body, or with its emotions, where it feels unsafe in some way, because it's a mammal, it will contract. Do you bring dishonor to that you and its contraction, or do you bring compassion to it? The question is not contraction, but what comes next. So we have contact with a catalyst. Consciousness of the catalyst. It's going to be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Even if it's pleasant, there can be some contraction if it's a surprise. The contraction is a new object. So first, there may have been a loud sound, or bright flashing light, some uncomfortable touch, And the body reaction was contraction. Unpleasant. What happens when something is unpleasant? Contract. The contraction, my friends, is the new object. That sound or push or light or whatever it may have been, unpleasant thought, whatever the object that was the impetus for contracting, it's no longer predominant. The unpleasant feeling is predominant. And with feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, there will almost always be a follow. Pleasant, liking, and then wanting more. Unpleasant, dislike, aversion. And with aversion, contraction. With grasping, also contraction. What is the direct experience of contraction? Probably unpleasant. Then you contract around the contraction. It keeps going on. In a minute, I'm going to shout again. I'm going to ask you to watch this experience of contraction. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. If unpleasant, can you see aversion to it, wanting to push it away, which compounds the contraction? What happens if you just put your hands over your heart and note, contracting. Right here, this human is experiencing contraction. Hold this human with love until the contraction fades away. An alternate route is to ask, who is contracting? Can you see that it's just the reactivity of the human body and mind? Is there any solid self under there that's contracting? You might say, I'm contracting. Who are you? You are the aggregates of the body, the mind, feelings, thoughts, consciousness. What are you beyond all of this? If you are not to the body, who are you? Think of a wave in the ocean. The ocean is still, and because of the currents, a wave arises, a big wave coming out. Then it breaks and falls down into the ocean. Where is that wave? Has there ever been anything there but ocean? The wave seemed to have a shape, and then it dissolved. It's just ocean. Think of a feeling of hot or cold that you might have. A sensation, not a feeling, sensation. You're outside, it's very cold. You start to shiver. You come inside and warm up. Where is the shiver? Does it have any permanence? It's just a reaction to conditions. And then look at the feeling, unpleasant, and then aversion. It has no solidity. It arises out of conditions. And when the conditions pass, it will pass. But the human tendency is to build the solid self around it. When you're so invested in being your thoughts, your physical sensation, your emotions, you lose track of what you truly are, which is a divine light of essence, a radiance, presence, love. Now I'm going to try this shout again. I'm not going to tell you when. I'd like you to watch how contraction arises, assuming it will, but it may not. If it doesn't, don't go and look for it. But if it arises, just watch the direct experience of contracting. Watch it fade away. Or ask the question, who is contracting? What is this contraction? Does it have any more solid substance than the ocean wave? Is there anybody to whom it belongs? Are there any questions about my instruction? So, given just a little time to do this shout, so that I do take you a bit by surprise. I am going somewhere with all of this, I promise. But this is a foundation. Contract. Contract. Your heart beating a bit fast. Body energy pulled in tight. Right there with the contraction, there is spaciousness. But we are not trying to fix the contraction. There's nothing to fix. It arose from conditions. It may be unpleasant, and it's okay that it's unpleasant. We just let it be. Let it dissolve itself. Unpleasant, unpleasant. Breathing until you begin to experience the spaciousness right there with the contraction. Again, with another shout. I want you to follow what I just said. Don't try to find spaciousness. I'm looking at the chat. Somebody says it sounds like a hiccup. Zoom stops the shout before she can finish, but the first part can still cause a reaction. I see the problem. 2 new messages. Sounds like a hiccup. Well, a surprise hiccup. Perhaps that can startle you. Maybe that's enough. Just breathe. Finding the place that is spacious. Right there with the still existent contraction. Relax. Open. Maybe the vision in your mind of the big wave breaking into the ocean and then just fading into the ocean. Water becoming still. Breathing in, breathing out, resting in spaciousness, resting in joy. Whether on a personal or a universal level, much of the destruction in your world, the aging in the self, the continuation of disease in the self, the rising of fear and hatred, national, international, the destruction of the environment, is caused, let me say it differently, nothing has one cause. One partial cause is this human tendency to contract and to armor the self when something seems to threaten. There's nothing wrong with that tendency. It's a part of being a mammal. If you have the squirrels or birds or rabbits in your yard browsing peacefully, and you yell, they're going to contract and fly away. They're going to run. Fight, flight, or freeze. You are mammals. The great advantage of being human is the power of free will and deep reflection of what is driving, and that you have the free will to react in ways that armor the self and push away, or to respond by noting, contract, fear, separating, and knowing this is not my intention. My intention is to be present with all things, with an open heart. Certainly you will shield yourself, protect yourself. If somebody starts throwing rocks at you, you won't stand there and say, I will just be hit by rocks, because they can hurt you. You'll step behind a wall, or in some other way, make the body safe. Can you see that you can do that without separating from the rock throw? So you step behind a wall and ask, why are you throwing rocks? Begin to understand the fear of the rock throw, the anger for pain, and begin a communication where the thrower can cease to throw rocks. And you have not separated into me and them, good or bad, just rested in spacious compassion. Positive polarity chooses service to all beings, which does not mean making yourself a martyr. It's not really a service. To allow somebody else to destroy you is not kindness to that person. Bad karma for them. You say no compassionate, but you begin to see that you have a choice about this kind of contraction and moving into a strong sense of separation. Let me take this to a next level based on your person first, before I talk about the earth. I have been pointing out to Barb. X-rays on her shoulders and neck showed much bone-on-bone osteoarthritis. It's just come in the past 2 years when she's putting a lot of weight on her walker because of a hip tendon tear 2.5 years ago. Before that, she rarely used a walker, and she could bear her weight upright. But the tear of the tendon made it very hard to put weight on that right leg and hip. So she used her left leg to bear her weight, which caused pressure against the knee. Then she started carrying herself with her arms. And because of COVID, there was not much. She could have gone to physical therapy. She decided she did not want to take that risk. So, bone-on-bone contraction, and it doesn't have the opportunity to heal. Because every day as she walks, she's doing it again. It's both contraction around the pain and the wearing down of the cartilage because of misuse. When there is pain, you will contract. It's normal, just like with my shout. Contraction. But that contraction does not need to be healed. When we talk about healing of the person or of the earth, of the person on a physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual level, what we're really speaking of is returning to the ever-healed, the ever-perfect, and allowing it to more fully express itself. Positive polarity is able to say, contract. Therefore, no energy can flow through it. Therefore, I am separating into the small self. I choose love. I choose spaciousness. I choose light. I choose not to perpetuate this damage to this imagined separated self, not to make it into something solid. Negative polarity shifts into, I will protect myself at all costs. Continues to bear that separation, contraction, and distortion. Why would you want to do that? Negative polarity. There is nobody on this screen who is essentially negatively polarized. When I say essentially, was it moved into the bias, strongly into the bias of negative polarity. You are all neutral to positive polarity. And yet, as humans, you still have the old habits. Contract. I want to give you this example of the personal self because you can see it more easily than the personal self. And then expand out into the world. I have the problem of contraction spiritually and physically. Whenever someone I don't like comes close, I can feel I strongly contract in both ways, like a flower retracting back to a bud. Yes, of course, because you are human. The question is not if you will contract, but how you will relate to that contraction. If you say, oh no, contract, I'm bad because I want to be a loving spiritual person, there's further contraction. When you say, oh, this push is so hard, this presence is so difficult, I feel the experience of contract. As a loving being, I choose not to maintain that contraction. Right here, in this moment, where is spaciousness? So we watch contraction, and we watch the fact that it has simply arisen from conditions, is impermanent, is not of the nature of a separate self, and that if we take care of the contraction, it releases. It's much like the parent of a baby. At 3 in the morning, the baby starts to cry. If the parent wakes up and says, oh no, and goes in and walks the baby, it doesn't shake the baby, of course, but walks the baby filled with tension. Be quiet, be quiet. Be quiet. The baby is not going to calm down. If the parent feels the contraction in itself and it just sits down, maybe rocks, and first attends to itself, even while the baby is crying, feeling tension, wanting the baby to stop crying, desperate to get back to sleep. Compassion for myself and then compassion for the baby. Gradually, as you quiet down and find your own innate spaciousness, the baby will quiet down. All of you who are parents have learned this. We rock the baby, we rock ourselves with tenderness, kindness, compassion. We cannot make the catalyst stop. We can stop carrying the effects of that consciousness in ourselves, storing it in ourselves, and sending it back out into the world. It is a learned behavior based on the intention to do no harm and to live in the world with more love and more light. For negative polarity, the intention will probably be to go in and shake the baby until the baby sees you coming and is even more terrified, but is terrified to stop crying. Then the baby grows up, shaking its own babies, terrifying its own babies, and on it goes. Do you choose fear or do you choose love? You are masters of the love. This is your essence. Fear and negativity are something learned. They are not an ultimate reality. Loving kindness, spacious presence, these are ultimate realities. So you're very precious body teachers. Your bodies as teachers give you a way to explore how you respond to catalyst and to play with it a bit, to ask yourself very gently, what would be a kinder way to respond to this or that catalyst when something is deeply disturbing in terms? Can I open my heart to my own discomfort? and be patient until what has arisen fades away. You do this over and over. You either deepen the pattern of negative reaction to uncomfortable catalyst, or you learn to say thank you, teacher, to that disturbing catalyst, and to find a place of spaciousness where the essence of love within can be present. As you learn this, you lessen the contraction in your body. We've had Barbara this past month walking around her house with much mindfulness, noting any time that she begins to lean on the walker, stopping, if necessary, even sitting on the walker, and breathing. Aware that the back is becoming tight, aware of pain in the hip or knee. And then standing up and taking a few or many steps, determined not to put more pressure on the shoulders and injure them further. We have to take away that friction on the shoulders before there can be repair. She says, but Aaron, it takes me so long to get anywhere. And I said to her, imagine how long it's going to take you if your shoulders give out completely and you cannot walk and are in a wheelchair. Is that what you want? Do you wish to be able to walk effortlessly? Yes. I choose it. Do you choose it out of love or out of fear? Some of each, she said. But she can see the stronger intention is love. Love for herself and for all. So this is one step to begin to see the armoring in the self, whether it's against a physical catalyst or whatever kind of catalyst, contract. And the way that is wearing down the physical body, the emotional body, leading to exhaustion. Then the second part is the choice. I am a being of light and I draw in light. For Barbara, this has been about visualizing the bone hitting bone with no cartilage in her shoulders and her spine. Spending maybe 2 or 3 20-minute periods a day just sitting or lying down, drawing in light, bringing it into the spaciousness between the bones, inviting new cartilage growth. And yes, I can regrow. On the emotional level, this might be likened to watching the pain and the repetition of fear and anger and their stories, and just saying, no, I do not intend to emotionally cripple myself with sorrow or anger. Where is light? Where is love? Where is spaciousness? Truly open to that. You'll find that there are repetitive stories that go, maybe based in your childhood or somewhere else in your life. Because your highest intention is service to all beings, including yourself, is kindness and knowing yourself to be light and love. This is the ground on which you build. I choose spaciousness. I choose love. I choose joy. I choose light. And not forcing and not trying to create something that's not there. But no matter what the situation, if you give it a little time, you will find some spaciousness. Even in the midst of deep sorrow, you will find some light. I go for refuge to the light. I take refuge in the loving heart. I take refuge in my true being as a being of light. You really can begin to feel the same. So we can use the self as an example, opening to that which is filled with light and love. Not discarding tension, contraction, fear, pain, but holding them gently like you hold the crying baby until the body begins to open and you stop the acts and beliefs that keep aging and destroying the body. This is not healing. That's an action to get from here to there. This is opening into the ever healed. You can become masters of this. Not only can become, but it is vital that you become masters. As you learn this and emit more light, move higher into a positive polarity that invites positive polarity from the world around you. The whole world is so caught in contraction, and it's opposite of trying to fix the contraction, which is just another contraction. To fix the political, social, environmental issues, rather than seeing the already perfect, relaxing and compassionately inviting it. I'm not suggesting it is easy, but negative polarity only enhances negative polarity. Positive polarity is the only way to enhance positive polarity and thereby to set in effect the slow release of the negative, which is nothing more to grab hold of. The very serious political, social, and environmental issues of the world. People often ask me, has it gone too far? Is the world just going to destroy itself? And I feel certain that is not the case. The world is asking you to pay attention. to the ripples of contraction that spread and spread and spread. The world is inviting you to step back and see the possibility of a shift when you ground yourself in the true light and love that you are. Positive polarity invites positive polarity. If you have been in a field where people were throwing rocks at you, you would find caves to hide in, or big boulders to hide behind. And you might even be moved to pick up some of these rocks that are lying on the ground and throw them back, so that the people across the way, can pick them up and throw them back again. Back and forth, back and forth. What does it mean to stop? It's a beautiful Buddhist sutra. It talks of a man who was a known murderer and killer, filled with hatred. The story goes that the Buddha is walking down the road when the man comes up behind him. Everybody is terrified of this man. Everybody gets indoors behind locked doors. People have said to the Buddha as he walked down the road, "He's out. It's dangerous. Come into my house." And the Buddha said, "It's okay." So here's the man behind him, and the man shouts at him, "Stop!" The Buddha keeps walking. "I told you to stop." The Buddha keeps walking. The man is enraged. He runs around in front of the Buddha where he can face him. He yells at him, "I told you to stop." The Buddha very calmly looks at him and says, "I have stopped. It's you who haven't stopped. I have stopped. It's you who haven't stopped." The man is startled, and he gets what the Buddha is saying. He goes down on his knees and begs the Buddha, "Take me as your disciple." What does it mean to stop? To stop the fear, the hatred, the reactivity. I have stopped. It's you who haven't stopped. In my final lifetime, you've heard me tell the story, lying there in the mud, driving rain, cold rain pouring down on my body, pinned to the mud, to the earth by a thorn tree. A hungry tiger growling around me, trying to get through the thorns to eat me. And fear, anger, contraction, all were running through me, of course, because I was young. I had not stopped this whole cycle of fear, anger, reactivity. As I lay there in the mud, I understood the choice is mine. Right here, I can take hold of this choice. Not to stop by saying stop to myself in fierce, cruel way, but by opening it to that which had already stopped, which knew itself to be love, which knew that I was not in control of anything that was happening. I could not move even an inch. I could not stop the rain. I could not lift the tree. I could not get rid of the tiger. The only thing I had a choice about was whether I was going to live what remained of my life, or if it were to be so, to die with love or with fear and hatred. About that, we have a choice. The Buddhas remarked to this man, I have stopped. It's you who have not stopped. The Buddha invited him into the community of monks. Became a very awakened and loving monk. He still had the karma for all the people he had killed, the killing and the stealing he had done. When the community of monks went into a village, an alms round, people would look at him, say, that's who he is, and stone him. He didn't heed. He simply knew these are the results of my prior actions. I will hold as much loving space around this as possible. I will not heed those who are throwing stones. They have not yet learned to stop. Your earth is filled with those who have not yet stopped. You have the opportunity to look at the world around you, to find the stopping place for yourself, and to say, I have stopped. I invite you, not you haven't stopped, but I invite you to stop with it. There's a beautiful poem. This is by Pablo Neruda, Keeping Quiet. Now we will all count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let us not speak any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. And the man gathering salt would not look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, and wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk around and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it's about. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Now I'll count up to 12. And you keep quiet, and I will go. So the Buddha is saying, I have stopped, but you have not stopped. I have stopped. You are capable of stopping. Are you ready to do that? And it begins with mindfulness, watching contraction and healed contraction in yourself, the perpetuation of contraction, one contraction after another. In January, the last week of January, we have the so-called Healing and the Ever Healed workshop. Certainly, if you have an illness or some physical pain, there's something that you wish to heal. That's very understandable. But we also must understand that we are not fixing anything in our personal selves or in the world, but are opening it to the ever perfect, holding a space for that, living that. Stop it. And imagining what would a world be like where everything stopped for a moment and there was only peace. There is that potential, and really it is up to you whether that potential will happen. When I say up to you, to all of you and millions of others of you who are of positive polarity, but have not yet fully learned to enact that positive polarity, are still reacting to your old habits. Maintaining and perpetuating the contractions. Love is the only answer. Love for yourselves, love for all beings, and the deep knowing, yes, it is possible. One other bit from Buddhist sutras. The sutra says, abandon the unwholesome. One can abandon the unwholesome. If such abandonment led to suffering, I would not ask you to abandon it. But as it leads to peace and goodness, I ask you, abandon the unwholesome. Cultivate the wholesome. One can cultivate the wholesome. If it were not possible, I would not ask you to do it. If such a cultivation led to suffering, pain, and loss, I would not ask you to cultivate it. But cultivating the wholesome leads to happiness and peace. What I am talking about tonight is the power each of you have to begin to abandon the unwholesome in yourself in terms of letting go of the old habits that destroy yourself and your world through pushing back at contraction, and to reopen and cultivate, by which I mean just paying attention to those habits that allow you to invite in more love, spaciousness, and peace. It's as simple as that. Now a small exercise that some of you may like to do at home in the coming weeks. Get some pots or even an egg carton and fill it with all of the little containers and fill it with the same fertile soil. Really, egg cartons will not do it because you need space around. So separate small pots will do it. Get the same kind of plant. It could be a carrot or a radish. Simple flower seeds. Put a seed in each little container. Give each the right amount of water. Put them in a sunny, appropriate windows. Put half the pots on one side and half the pots, a third of the pots on one side, a third in the middle, a third on the other side. Spend some time each day with a third of the pots on one side, watching for them to sprout without grass, but thanking those seeds for their willingness to come into being in the world. Truly praising and loving those seeds. On the other side, take some, separate the other side, some that you wait until they sprout before you continue, some that have not sprouted. Yell at them every day. What are you waiting for? Why haven't you sprouted? What's wrong with you? The ones that on that far side that have sprouted, what happens to them when you yell at them? And some in the middle. They don't get your love or your anger. Just watch these for 6 weeks and see what happens to them. Your family, your friends, your neighbors, those who you think of as your enemies, they are all these precious seeds. If you want that seed to open to the light, to grow in light and as expression of light, does it work better to hate it, to yell at it, to ignore it, or to offer it to love? What is this energy we call love? As you do this, picture yourself, your very self, in a pot. What are you offering to yourself? Am I cherishing myself? Am I frequently angry with myself? If I am angry, without trying to get rid of the anger, can there be compassion for the human who is angry? Begin to feel the effects of that anger in your body. Carry it further. Take a couple of pots and put seeds in and think of them as some aggressor in the world. I'm not going to issue names, but it might be someone in your own country or someone from far away, someone with whom there is anger. This person is causing so much discord. instead of pouring out heat on that person or ignoring that person, what if you spend a few minutes a day with that seed? That is the seed for that person, saying, I have compassion for you. No, you may not do harm in the world, but I feel and hear your pain, and I hold you in my heart. So try this in whatever ways feel of interest and appropriate to you, and see what happens to these seeds. If the seeds in one area begin to die, the small sprouts die. What happens if out of compassion you look at those sprouts and say, you are not receiving what you need. I give you love. Really offer your love to them. Are you giving yourself what you need? Are you nurturing yourself? Have you stopped negating yourself? Have you stopped negating those who are doing harm in the world? You do not say, yes, go ahead and do your harm. You say, no. You must stop. I have stopped. You have not yet stopped, but I hold you in my heart and I hear and feel your pain. I love you, and yet I will not permit you to destroy. I stop you with love. Love is the strongest power in the world. This, my friends, is the heart of the learning for these times. If the world is going to make a transition into a higher positive polarity, it will be with love. Hatred will just bring it into transition into negative polarity. Is that what you want? You, my friends, are in charge. You came into the incarnation to do this. It starts with the personal and opens out into the whole world. Positive polarity invites positive polarity. Hatred invites hatred, and it deepens hatred. And eventually that hatred will pull your world apart. Now, at this time of transition, birthing into a new, higher vibrational earth and sentient beings upon the earth, you are in charge. You have the power to deepen in love and compassion and wisdom, and to co-create the world that you seek. I think that's enough on this topic for now. I'll open the floor to questions. Thank you for hearing me. I am Aaron. I understand that feeling. I had a lot of a problem seeing my way clear to the tiger that wanted to eat me, as I was pinned in the mud with the rain pouring down and the thorn tree at top of me. How will I survive? There is always going to be a tiger, whatever form it takes, such as global warming, or those whose politics feel very different things. ahimsa. The word means dynamic compassion. It's not just loving kindness, which is important. It's an active compassion. It's a compassion that's willing to stand out in front of an army and say, kill me if you need to, but no, you may not go any further. But it's said with love. Barbara relates this in a different way. She tells the story of being on a sitting on some kind of soda fountain bar. She and her companion ordered a soda. They thought, oh, they're bringing it to us. And they brought it in 2 cups and dropped it on her head. Rage came. Immediately upon its being dropped on their heads, the police came in and grabbed them and dragged them out into a police wagon. Anger was that strong anger, wanting to have gotten it right and not being able to control the situation. So then an hour later, there she was in a jail cell with a number of other women. She was pacing up and down, feeling anger, feeling contraction, feeling frustration. A beautiful middle-aged woman, older middle-aged woman, maybe 60, walked up to her. Barbara was a bit bedraggled, so wet from the soda poured down on her body and clothes. Her hair a mess. Irritation. This woman, who had also been dragged out and thrown into the police wagon, but she was immaculate. She looked at Barbara and said, "You seem so angry." And Barbara said, "Of course I'm angry." And the woman said, "Aren't you angry?" And the woman said, "Of course I'm angry, but I also love them. And they are so afraid." The shift from the personal fear and agitation and anger to this dynamic compassion. Acknowledging the act. You must acknowledge the act. Of course I'm angry, but I also love them, and they are so afraid. You can't acknowledge another's fear and the fear that catalyzes their negative actions unless you can acknowledge your own fear and hold space for it, compassionate space. Once you do that, the compassion fills everything. It may not change everything immediately, but gradually it changes things. I will speak a bit more as I have been beaten, murdered, brutalized, heated in so many lifetimes, and so have all of you. And I have brutalized others, heated others, killed others, and so have all of you. And then the Buddha's words, I have stopped. It's you who haven't stopped. How do you stop? You can never stop by hatred. You can never stop by self-condemnation. Only compassion and loving kindness allow you the spaciousness to hold those emotions. find the space around those emotions and to cease to need to enact. And then you can fully stop. For me, in that situation, I think I would turn to chant. Just metta, karuna, mudita, upeka, or some other similar chant. Just grounding yourself in the loving energy of the heart, returning to the heart. It may help to put on some music that inspires. It may help to talk to a friend and acknowledge that you're feeling overwhelmed, asking for help and acknowledging, I'm feeling really stuck. Sometimes reading something that inspires can help. Just sitting in a beautiful place, looking out at the sky, the trees, or a flower. Holding your beloved child, friend, cat, dog, bird, whatever. Connecting in that way to loving energy and life. If it is your thing, go into a store and hold some puppies, or into the Humane Society and hold some puppies. Something that brings you back to light and to life. Then, once there's a bit more spaciousness, begin to work with a guided meditation to self-compassion, holding the intention for compassion for yourself, and offering compassion to all beings. And this can often pull you out of that kind of darkness. I want to remind you that, like yourself, I was human. I had many very challenging human lifetimes. I knew many others who had challenging lifetimes. And I knew beings who woke up to the truth of love and light within themselves, moving through those challenges. I knew you can do it too. You can. It must be invited, not with pressure on yourself. What's wrong with me? Why is this hard for me? Of course it's hard. But invited with loving kindness and compassion for the self. But if you do this, it will change everything for yourselves and for your world. There are so many of you on earth today ready to do this. Truly come into the incarnation specifically for this goal, to help bring the earth through a transition into a higher, positively polarized, higher density planet. You can do it. Principles of the Four Noble Truths are the chitta that is outside samudaya, cause. The result from sending the chitta outside is dukkha, suffering. Chitta seeing chitta is magga, the way. The results of chitta, seeing chitta, are nirodha, cessation. Hi, Barbara. I found the quote from Achandon helpful. Just wanted to share. It's important that when we consider cessation, we not get caught up in the cessation of my suffering, which can lead to a subtle service to self mode of being, but truly the cessation of suffering for all beings everywhere. This is the most beautiful and powerful intention, that all beings everywhere be free from suffering, be happy, and have peace. The only way to even begin the process of stopping for others is to stop within yourself. You do not stop within yourself in order to make others stop. You stop within yourself because there is no other way. If you're going to find an end to suffering, it must be through that stopping. Then you hold out the invitation to others, and it will take as long as it takes. But you're setting up a different kind of energy on the earth. An energy wherein the invitation is extended. The possibility is laid out. And others will stop when they're ready. As in the story of the sutra that I spoke of. He could have killed the Buddha. He could have gone on and killing people until eventually, let's put it this way in a different terminology, fixed density, negative polarity, cannot move beyond sixth density. There is no ultimate level for negative polarity. Hatred is a relative experience. It has no ultimate level. Only love has ultimate reality. A world, a universe filled with negative polarity eventually must turn back all the way back to first density and set itself into positive polarity. The greatest service that you can do here is to model a positive polarity, to make it available to those who are ready to open to it. And more may follow that invitation. It is the only way. And I trust it. I do not predict the future. If enough people continue to contribute to negative polarity, looking even at dictators as someone that must be destroyed. Let me say this carefully. From compassion, we say, no, you may not do this, and hold that firm, but not from hatred. When there is hatred for the dictators, it engenders more hatred. Ahimsa that I spoke of earlier says no firmly, but does not hate. It holds compassion for those who do harm while saying no. This is the power that hopefully can be enhanced in the world. You do it by practicing with yourself and your neighbor, by practicing with a crying baby or the puppy who was puddled on the road, saying no clearly, with compassion, setting up clear boundaries, but grounded in love. When enough beings have learned how to do this by practicing in their own lives, then this hatred and the dictatorships and such that threaten to destroy your world will end. It is up to all of you. And I am so encouraged because there are so many groups like this around the globe who are learning these practices. Thank you. I have found the work I have done with Thomas Hubble, combining these principles of mindfulness with building Sangha-based collective consciousness and relational depth for healing trauma at individual and collective levels. Very helpful. Interested folks may check out thomashubble.net. I don't know of Thomas Hubble, but there are many groups all around your globe who are doing this work. Many teachers of love and kindness, of non-duality. I think of teachers of such as the now past Thich Nhat Hanh and the power of his teaching. I think of teachers like Krishnamurti and his grounding of non-duality. I think of people like Ram Dass and the work he brought forth in compassion and loving kindness. You don't have to go somewhere special for this. It's in your heart. And as long as you have a sincere group of seekers around that can support you, you'll find your way through it. Of course, if some specific teacher speaks to you, then work with that teacher. Thank you for the introduction to Thomas Hubble. I thank you all for being here with me tonight. I'm going to give the body to Barbara, so please just stay present for a minute. I am Aaron, and I love you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. This is Barbara. Thanks to everybody who has been with us tonight. Please try Aaron's growing the seeds exercise if it speaks to you. See what happens as you work with that. I would like to remind you all that I offer these evenings on a donation basis. If we're here live, a dana pool will be passed. Anybody who would like to offer dana can find the link on Deep Spring and send some by PayPal. So I'm holding out my begging bowl. Thank you. The money that you paid goes to Deep Spring for Deep Spring's working and the keeping Deep Spring, keeping the lights on, figuratively speaking, and to hold the technical side for these sessions. Aaron has been talking to me, as he always does at this time of year, about gratitude. And it's wonderful to have a specific time to remember the importance of gratitude. And it's also wonderful to remember gratitude year-round. So gratitude for all of you who are part of this Deep Spring energy and all really having a powerful force, becoming a powerful force of love in the world. I'm so grateful for that. It really moves me. And it's Such a delight to see faces. I recognize people from all over the globe. Asia, Europe, Canada, US. Thank you for being part of this. I don't know what to call it. Sangha is one word, but just this center of loving hearts that we call Deep Spring. That's all.